Welcome to the channel. My name is Ian. Today, I will be starting a 6-part series on what if Marvel had all the rights from the start. I did something like this a few years ago, but I didn't go into detail on certain things. I will be structuring this timeline with movies and TV shows coming out in chronological order. Some projects will either be similar to what we got in the actual MCU, while others will be completely redone. Some will have very slight changes, while also having original made stories by yours truly. Each project will have a mid-credit scene and a post-credit scene setting up the next movie or the next couple movies. There will be 3 sagas in 6 phases. Phase 1 will be the first saga, also known as the Legacy Saga. So, without further ado, let's jump into this alternate 616 timeline. Our first movie in the new MCU is Captain America: The First Avenger, taking place in 1942. A young man named Steve Rogers wants to fight in the war to stop the Nazis. However, he is a very skinny and weak man. He joins a secret program after being admitted into the army by a former German scientist named Dr. Erskine, who made the first super soldier serum. Rogers takes the serum and gets the upgrade he always wanted. Eventually, he helps the army go after Hydra, a rogue Nazi science group led by their leader, Red Skull. Red Skull had found the ancient power of the gods, the Tesseract, and with this artifact, he was going to use it to help win the war for the Nazis. With the help of Bucky Barnes and the Howling Commandos, Captain America tries to stop Hydra. Steve gets a shield to help fight the Red Skull made out of vibranium, which at this point is the strongest metal on Earth. Along the way, Steve meets a man named Logan, who had strange bone claws, a rough attitude, and a love for cigars. During the war, Bucky Barnes falls off a train during a mission and is presumed dead. More determined to beat the Red Skull than ever, Steve walks into Hydra's base and gets on a plane to try and stop Red Skull from bombing the US. Red Skull tries to use the Tesseract by grabbing it with his bare hands, but it quickly evaporates him. Steve must put the aircraft in the freezing water or the plane's autopilot would cause damage to America. Steve sacrifices himself to save his country. The mid-credit scene shows Steve waking up 70 years later in 2012 when Nick Fury recruits him for the Avengers initiative. The post-credit scene shows Steve in the modern day at a museum learning about what happened to the love of his life, Peggy Carter, while also learning about what happened after the war. We then focus on a man walking behind Steve, puffing a cigar, smiling, and saying, "Good to have you back, bub." Steve turns around to see who said that, but the man is gone. The next movie would be Captain Marvel, taking place in 1996. An Air Force pilot named Carol Danvers is testing a new jet with a lightspeed engine powered by the Tesseract and created by Wendy Lawson. Their ship crashed and Carol Danvers absorbed the energy from the engine. She was left in a coma for over 6 years when the engine exploded back in 1990. The energy reached the not-so-pleasant race of beings out in the universe, the Skrulls. When Carol wakes up, she begins to develop powers and learns how to use them. She unintentionally had Nick Fury investigating her. Eventually, the two started working together as the Skrulls drew closer to Earth over the last 6 years. Talos, the leader of the Skrulls, led the first wave down to Earth to try and invade it. With the help of Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D., Captain Marvel could take down the Skrulls and send them running away, declaring they would come back to this planet. Carol started working for S.H.I.E.L.D. and was leading space missions to try and stop the Skrulls. The mid-credit scene shows Nick Fury typing up the Avengers initiative and what the requirements would be. The post-credit scene shows Captain Marvel noticing a strange form of energy drifting in the empty vastness of space as the X-Men theme softly plays in the background. The next movie would be Hulk, taking place in 2005. The military wanted to reopen the Super Soldier program. General Thunderbolt Ross brings on a scientist named Bruce Banner, who he thinks using gamma rays could help the program. Instead, it turned him into something unthinkable. Ross then puts an arrest order for Bruce Banner as he goes on the run. He does his best to control his anger, but still loses control. Ross ends up hiring a soldier who can handle Bruce, and Ross shoots him up with an experimental serum that turns him into an abomination. The two mighty beasts clash, and in the end, the Hulk wins. Ross sees there could be some hope for Bruce, so he lets him go. The mid-credit scene shows Bruce meeting someone who tells him he can get rid of the Hulk and return to being normal. This man's name is Samuel Stearns. The post-credit scene shows Ross is about to give up on making a super soldier serum, but he finds one more person who he thinks can make it happen. He calls a scientist named Norman Osborn to see if he would be interested in helping the government make super soldiers. Before we get into this next movie, I want to give a little bit of some clarification. The next movie in this new MCU is The Amazing Spider-Man. I'm taking bits and pieces from the three Spider-Men. I am having Andrew Garfield be our Peter Parker. I am having him wear the final swingsuit from Spider-Man No Way Home, and he has almost an exact similar origin story to Tobey Maguire. I'm taking individual traits about the three Spider-Men we've had over the last 25 years. This movie takes place in 2006. 15-year-old Peter Parker starts high school at Midtown High, feeling like an outsider but supported by his friends Gwen Stacy and Harry Osborn. On a field trip to Oscorp, Peter is bitten by a radioactive spider, and soon after, he notices strange changes: enhanced strength, speed, and agility. As he experiments with his new powers, he finds himself clashing with the school bully, Flash Thompson, easily dodging his attacks and realizing just how different he's become. When Peter enters a wrestling match to earn money, he selfishly lets the thief escape, only to discover later that the thief had killed his beloved Uncle Ben. Grief-stricken and fueled by guilt, Peter remembers Ben's final words: "With great power comes great responsibility." Driven by this new purpose, Peter creates a suit and web shooters, becoming Spider-Man, and trying to track down his uncle's killer. One day, he intervenes in an attack at Oscorp by a winged villain called the Vulture, revealed to be Adrian Toomes, a disgruntled ex-employee. After a destructive battle, Peter nearly kills Toomes in anger, but stops when he recalls his uncle's words, understanding their meaning at the last moment. Toomes is arrested and is sent to the raft, and though beaten pretty badly, Peter finds hope as Gwen confesses her love and he finally embraces his role as a hero. The mid-credit scene shows Norman Osborn working on a project funded by Thunderbolt Ross to try and make the super soldier serum that was once used on Captain America to try and make a new super soldier. Norman shows his progress to Ross as we see a flight suit and glider in the background. The post-credit scene shows the man who killed Uncle Ben approaching a building, delivering the money he stole to a man working on a suit for him that would protect his body in the shape of a scorpion. Our next movie would be X-Men First Class, taking place in 2008. This would be one of the first superhero projects in the MCU that is centered around a team. Over the centuries, a mutant gene began to appear in humans, activating during puberty and granting them unique abilities or physical changes. Two powerful mutants, Charles Xavier and Eric Lensher, emerge with different ideologies. Charles wants peaceful coexistence, while Eric believes mutants are superior. Charles establishes a school for young mutants, while Eric forms the Radical Brotherhood of Mutants. Jubilee, a young mutant who can generate explosive plasma from her fingertips, runs away from home, fearing rejection, and finds her way to Xavier's school. There, she meets other mutants like Hank McCoy, Scott Summers, Jean Grey, Warren Worthington, and Bobby Drake, who help her learn to control her powers. Meanwhile, Eric makes a public declaration demanding dominance for mutants, prompting Charles to mobilize his X-Men. The team heads to confront Eric's Brotherhood, unaware that Jubilee has secretly joined them. During the battle in New York, Jubilee steps in to save a child from falling debris using her powers. Inspired, Jubilee and Jean help civilians while the X-Men defeat Eric, who is then imprisoned in a plastic cell. The X-Men return home victorious and are celebrated, with Jubilee beginning her journey as a true mutant hero. The mid-credit scene shows a man named Bolivar Trask presenting a project to launch that will help the government protect people from mutants. This is the Sentinel program. The post-credit scene shows a motorcycle rolling up to the mansion's front doors. Scott walks outside and asks, "Can I help you, sir?" The camera tilts up to see a man putting a cigar in his mouth and says, "I'm looking for someone. Does Charles Xavier live here?" Scott asks, "What do you want with the professor?" as his red ruby visor glows red. The mysterious man puffs his cigar, saying, "Easy there, bub," with three sharp metal claws emerging from his hands. Charles rolls up behind Scott, saying, "Ah, Logan, you made it. Scott, let him in. He is our guest for the evening." Our next movie would be The Fantastic Four, taking place in 2009. Reed Richards is a famous scientist looking to head to space to do some research on some cosmic rays that will be close to Earth's atmosphere. His girlfriend Sue Storm, her brother Johnny Storm, and Reed's old college roommate Ben Grimm helped him get there. They designed a ship that takes them to space, but the mission goes wrong when cosmic rays hit the ship, allowing Reed to see something or someone. They head back down to Earth and begin to develop abilities. Reed can suddenly stretch his limbs to any length, Sue turns invisible, Johnny becomes set ablaze, and Ben turns hard as stone. Reed tells them he will try to fix this and make them normal again. One day in New York, a dangerous man named Mole Man came from underground and had monsters attacking the city. Reed wants to stay and work on curing them, believing someone else will come and save the city. However, Johnny believes that they got these powers for a reason and convinces the others to go and help the city. The group takes down Mole Man and is called the Fantastic Four by the public. They became the first public superheroes. The mid-credit scene shows Reed having a vision sending fear through his whole body. A giant cosmic being known as Galactus, the devourer of worlds, is coming to Earth. The post-credit scene. A man is booking a flight to New York City to reunite with his old college partner. Not for a reunion, but for torment, as Victor Von Doom watches the news footage of the Fantastic Four saving the city for the first time. Our next movie in the MCU is X-Men Rise of the Sentinels. This movie takes place in 2010. Thunderbolt Ross approves Trask's Sentinel program to protect people from mutants, but Trask secretly programs them to kill all mutants out of hatred. 25 years later, Sentinels dominate society, hunting mutants relentlessly. A mutant named Bishop is sent back in time to 2010 to stop the Sentinels before they rise. Bishop seeks out the X-Men, who are training new recruits at the X-Mansion, while Charles Xavier tries to recruit Logan to teach at the school. Logan had come to Charles hoping to recover lost memories, which Charles uncovers through a psychic connection, revealing Logan's traumatic past. In the present, Bishop finds the X-Men and warns them about the future, convincing Charles by letting him read his mind. The X-Men split up to stop the global deployment of Sentinels, recruiting new mutants like Colossus and Nightcrawler along the way. During a battle in Egypt, however, Angel is killed, pushing the team to stop Trask in the US. At a press conference, the Sentinels activate an attack, but the X-Men defeat them, forcing Ross to end the program. Bishop returns to a changed future where Sentinels never existed, and the X-Men are remembered as heroes even if they don't remember Bishop. At this point in time in the MCU, the X-Men would actually be labeled as public heroes, just like the Fantastic Four. The mid-credit scene shows Logan is riding his motorcycle through New York as he sees the Fantastic Four fighting the Hulk. He rides closer to the battle and engages the Green Monster. The post-credit scene shows a looming shadow covers the body of the fallen X-Men Angel, mutating him into something evil by someone who has lived for hundreds of years. The Age of Apocalypse has begun. Our next movie in the MCU would be The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which would also take place in 2010. 4 years after becoming Spider-Man, Peter Parker is 19 and enjoying the summer with his friends Harry Osborn and Gwen Stacy before college starts. Peter works at the Daily Bugle while Gwen and Harry work at Oscorp. During this time, Norman Osborn, Harry's father, has been developing a new super soldier serum for Thunderbolt Ross. But when he tests it on himself, it gives him super strength and a dangerous split personality. As the Green Goblin, Norman begins to wreak havoc, and Peter, along with Gwen and Harry, is drawn into the chaos. When the Green Goblin starts targeting Harry and Gwen, Peter learns of Norman's transformation and struggles to balance his identity as Spider-Man with his personal relationships. Norman's actions escalate, leading to a deadly confrontation where Peter faces a heartbreaking choice between saving Gwen or a group of children. In the end, Gwen dies in Peter's arms, and Norman, reverting to his true self, is killed by his glider during a brutal fight. At Gwen's funeral, Peter is devastated, but he's left with the guilt of not telling Harry the truth about his father's dual identity. As Harry grows to hate Spider-Man, Peter silently carries the weight of his loss. Just as he begins to grieve, news comes in that Shocker has escaped, prompting Peter to suit up once more, despite the tears streaming down his face. The mid-credits scene shows Peter is now starting his first year at college, and he meets up with two other heroes that just started going there, Bobby Drake and Johnny Storm, otherwise known as Iceman and the Human Torch. The post-credits scene shows Peter and Johnny are in class when they see a bright green explosion in the distance. Johnny opens up the glass window and jumps out, yelling, "Flame on!" Peter sneaks out of the room unnoticed, goes up to the roof, and sees a massive fight between the Fantastic Four and some strange hooded man. Peter suits up and goes into battle. Our next movie in the MCU would be Iron Man. This movie would take place in 2011. Tony Stark gets attacked in Afghanistan while showing off his weapons display. He gets taken to a cave in the desert and is forced to build that same weapon. Instead, he makes his first armored suit and escapes. When he gets back home, he begins making upgrades. Stark eventually learns who hired the hit on him, his old business partner Obadiah Stane. He finds Tony's first suit, upgrades it, and then tries to kill Tony. Tony fights off Obadiah and kills him. Stark then announces himself to the world that he is Iron Man. The mid-credit scene shows Nick Fury finding Tony Stark and tries to recruit him for the Avengers initiative, but Tony Stark turns it down at first because he doesn't want to join. The post-credit scene shows Tony planning to build a New York building to work on specific projects there. While scouting out an area in New York, a large explosion is heard in the distance. Tony looks up to see a rock-like man being thrown through the air. The thing comes crashing down as Tony suits up. Ben Grimm stands up, looks at Iron Man, and asks for his help. Now, before we get into this next movie, I do want to mention that this would actually be our first team-up movie. This would be like our first crossover team-up movie that we have in this new MCU. And this specific movie is an original story done by me. The next movie would be Fantastic Four: Age of Doom. This movie takes place in 2011. For the past 2 years, the Fantastic Four had been New York's primary heroes, saving the city time and time again, but their peace was shattered when reports flooded in about a massive green monster rampaging through Central Park. Upon arriving, Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman, and the Thing found themselves face to face with the Hulk, whose raw power was too much for them to handle. Just when all hope seemed lost, a motorcycle roared in and Wolverine leapt into action, his claws flashing as he joined the battle against the Green Behemoth. The mutant and Gamma monster clashed in an epic showdown, with the Hulk eventually subdued and transformed back into Bruce Banner, thanks to the combined efforts of the Fantastic Four and Wolverine. Back at the Baxter Building, Bruce explained that he had been minding his business when a man in a green cloak bumped into him, and the next thing he knew, he was overcome with rage, transforming into the Hulk. Reed, being perplexed, theorized that only someone with vast power could trigger such a reaction, and he quickly suspected one individual, Victor Von Doom. A flashback is shown of Reed's college days where a dangerous experiment gone wrong left Victor scarred and eventually led to him disappearing to Latveria. As Reed used his advanced tech to trace energy signals, the group ventured over to Queens, where Bruce saw the mysterious man once again. Victor, now clad in a metal mask and full of vengeance. In a violent confrontation, Victor lashed out, sending Ben flying with an energy blast, landing in front of Tony Stark, who quickly suited up and joined the fray. The Fantastic Four, along with Wolverine and Iron Man, battled Dr. Doom across the city, with Doom revealing his twisted motives. He sought revenge for his scars, his humiliation, and the love he believed Reed had stolen from him. As Doom unleashed a devastating blast, Johnny Storm and Spider-Man arrived just in time to join the fight, making their way to Times Square to battle the villain together. Realizing he was outnumbered, Dr. Doom retreated as the heroes regrouped back at the Baxter Building. With tensions rising and egos clashing, the group worked together to track down Doom, who had managed to infiltrate the Baxter Building and spring a surprise attack. As Bruce transformed into the Hulk once again, an epic battle ensued, but the combined efforts of the team brought Doom down, saving the city. Nick Fury arrived to recruit the heroes, extending an invitation to Tony, Bruce, and Spider-Man to join the Avengers, though Peter declined. Meanwhile, Doom was arrested, only to escape custody, plotting his next move to take over the US with an army of Doombots. The mid-credit scene shows Nick Fury looking through a folder. The folder is titled Possible Avengers Candidates. The two main heroes in the file are Ant-Man and the Wasp. In the post-credit scene, we have a wide shot of the desert as something comes crashing down to the ground. The camera moves towards it, and we see a strange-looking hammer as clouds come rolling in and we hear thunder in the distance. Our final movie to wrap up the Legacy Saga is Thor, which would take place in 2012. Thor is about to become king of Asgard, but he does something reckless and gets banished to Earth. His father sleeps deeply while his adopted brother Loki takes the throne. While on Earth, Thor learns what it's like to be mortal and what it means to be worthy. His brother tries to make it seem like their father has died because of Thor. Thor believes this and remains exiled. Eventually, Thor learns the truth as Loki sends the Destroyer to Earth to kill Thor. But Thor risks his life to save Jane Foster, a woman he fell in love with, and becomes worthy again. He takes down the Destroyer and returns to Asgard. Two brothers fight on a rainbow bridge. Thor ends up destroying the bridge to save the Nine Realms. Unfortunately, Loki falls into a wormhole created by the Bifrost and is appeared to be dead. The mid-credits scene shows Loki falling through a portal that eventually leads him to an unknown world where he meets someone who is sitting in a large floating chair. His henchman approaches him and asks if he would like a second chance. Loki has a confused look on his face as he is handed a scepter which holds a blue gem inside and can lead the Chitauri army. The post-credits scene shows Thor arriving on Earth from the help of his father Odin. When he lands, he hears the sound of a car rolling up behind him. The car door opens with Nick Fury getting out, asking him why the God of Thunder has come back to Earth. Thor responds with, "I have come to warn you about a dangerous being coming to Earth." Nick Fury is surprised and asks Thor to follow him as he wants to introduce him to some friends. This would be the first saga and first phase of my new MCU, the Legacy Saga. As we go into phase 2 in the next video, we will be entering the Infinity Saga. So that is going to be it for today's episode of What If Marvel Had All the Rights from the Start. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this first phase and this first saga. Let me know what your favorite and least favorite story was out of this entire phase. With that being said, remember to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.